Hi, welcome back to another Wheels and Madness RC video. I've been getting a lot of comments about my TRX4M swap Wpl C54, which is this baby right here. So, let's talk about it. Yeah, you heard that correctly. This is a Wpl C54 that is chassis swapped to a TRX4M. And as you can see, it uses a lot of the components as a TRX4M. So this chassis is a hard plastic, as you can tell, made from Oppai factory. I don't know how you pronounce it. And they actually have two chassis for WPLs. They have one for this model, the C54, and they also have one for the C24, which I believe you can also put on a C14. That's something I do want to test out in a future video, or in general, just want to test it out and see, because that would be really cool. So yes, this is a TRX4M swap, and so this way you can use components like Endura for axles and links. Now going into parts, like I just mentioned, you get to use a lot of TRX4M parts. You get to use axles, links, drive shafts, motor, transmission, which also opens up the doors to brushless systems and, you know, the MB100 paired with a 370 or the Endura 180. You don't have to use just Endura, you can use Mias. Anything you can use for a TRX4M, you can use on this. And I believe on the two models that they have to offer, this transmission plate you can change out too to be brass to make it heavier. And so they also have admitted that they will be using and making one for the C64. So eventually that will come out, but there's some tweaking they have to do. And I found out through a friend, so take that with a grain of salt. I don't want to spread misinformation. So to jump right in, I took the screws off the body, which is very simple. There's going to be two right here, which go in these bottom holes. And then there's going to be the two up here that go in your bumper. And then the one in the rear for your front, your interior. So mine's kind of messed up because of the wiring. I haven't fixed the wiring just yet. So this is what it looks like under the body. So you can see the Endura motor. It does sit backwards compared to a TRX4M, because on a TRX4M, the motor will sit this way, but you have this plate here. So this is what it's gonna look like on the interior or underside, underneath the body. And then you've seen already the undercarriage. So that's what it looks like opened up. My system is running an Endura 180 with an MB100 and the Endura transmitter. Let me go get that real quick. All right, I'm back. Here's that transmitter for you guys. This is what I'm running with this system. And as you can see, Lil Red, that's her name. That's how I know that this is her controller. All right. So after that, it is running a 7K G servo from Endura. It's the cheapest one you can buy from them. I'm gonna upgrade to 11 for more power. It's also running high trail links and drive shafts. And 59 mil shocks with the brass tips. So there are some pros and cons to this RC, so let's get right into those. So I want to start off with the pros, because this chassis from this Etsy seller is amazing. I have no complaints about it except for a few, but I really don't. I love it. I can ignore all of the complaints I have because this thing is absolutely amazing. So, I mean, first off, it lets you upgrade to Enduro or Traxxas, which means that the aftermarket support is so much larger now. Like, even though I forgot to mention, I have a brass transmission from a TRX4M. So that lets me go into 180 motors, the Enduro Roverin, I think that's how you pronounce it, brushless system. And then the brushless system I'm going to use in this car, because I'm going to upgrade to brushless, is going to be the FuryTech 2-in-1 combo with the ESC and motor to save on wiring. So that will make this system so much better. And then I can run 1.3 Enduras with no adapters, and there's no screws. They're nuts. So that means I don't have to worry about my wheels backing out. And then also too, this is what I love one of the most about this chassis kit is you have your links, and when it goes over terrain and it collapses the suspension, look at your links. They go flush with the sliders. So it really can slide over the rocks and the terrain that you are crawling. And then also too, it lets you open up to many shock options and many axle options. Right now I have stock with TRX4M shock axles, and I'm going to be upgrading to 4mm plus Endura portal axles or AKG brass portal axles to give it more weight. So that means you get more brass options too. If you can convert this entire thing into brass, you know, get heavier wheels, brass links, steel. These are steel drive shafts, but there's heavier ones, brass axles, and then you can do the brass transmission plate and then body weights. And this thing will be really, really heavy compared to Endura or in WPL. So that's my favorite highlights of this chassis. Unfortunately, like everything though, there are the cons. So let's get right into those. So let's talk about some of the cons. With this chassis, I think my biggest complaint, which makes sense on why you have to do it, I just don't like doing it, is if you want this chassis, you have to cut into the interior of your RC to fit the motor and transmission because it sits inside. So let's see if I can mock set this up so you can see. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult to see with my lighting. I'll post a picture here so you can see it. So that's one of my other complaints, or that's one of my complaints. Another one I have is what you might have saw with me just trying to show you there is wiring. If you want to do a 180 motor with an MB100 system, then you're going to have to do some cable management and more cutting to get your wires to look neat. That's how I have it set up right now. And it's just a mess. So like I said, if you're going to use this chassis setup, I highly recommend you do a 2-in-1 ESC. Whether that be a Spectrum 2-in-1 or a FuryTech 2-in-1, which I do have a Spectrum 2-in-1, but I want to use the FuryTech because the FuryTech fits into a stock 180 transmission, where the Spectrum uses a 370 transmission. And another thing to note when you buy this chassis is you lose your hood space. So this is all that is underneath the hood right here, this tray, which does not create a lot of room in the hood. I mean, that's all you're getting. So, and this is plate clashes with right here on the interior, so you're gonna have to cut that too. So there's just too much cutting, and the wiring is just not there unless you go with a 2-in-1 system. So I will be doing that. Another thing I have a complaint about with this chassis is, what was it? I remember. So it was links and drive shafts. So I know to get the fitment correctly, you have to do this, but you have to use the rear of a Traxxas TRX4M high trail links and drive shafts on the front and rear. So if you want to have this set up, you need to buy 2 links and 2 sets of drive shafts. And I mistakenly did not when I bought the parts. So it was 2-wheel drive for the longest time. And honestly, I think that's really it. Like I said, those cons I can overlook because this chassis is so amazing. The only thing I wish I did that I'm gonna fix in the future is I'm gonna double up on springs. So when you buy Endura shocks, they give you 2 sets of springs. They give you soft and they give you hard. I'm gonna combine them and put them on all 4 sides, because another thing I had an issue with, and I still do, is when you look, you can see I'm missing a cuff on this shock because it will rub on the spring, which will pop it up and then make the cuff fall out. And that's all I really have for complaints. I think, in my opinion, there's more benefits and more positives than there are cons. This thing flexes like an absolute animal compared to WPLs I've previously had or previously have experienced. So I know I've said some upgrades I already want to do, but I am going to go over them again and repeat myself for a 4th time on some of these. But another thing I really, really want to do the FurryTech 2-in-1. Because then that lets me have it here. So then I can put wiring in this tray with zip ties, make them organized, and then put the battery here. So then it's just a simple clip that I'll need to undo for storage. But if I'm using it all the time, I can leave it plugged in, and then it's a switch. So I'll put the button switch here, or I'll figure out a placement for it, but all I gotta do is flip on a switch, and then it's all set up. And then I will leave the receiver back here for the transmitter and just get a cable extension. So when I go to take off the body, I won't have these cables stuck inside. It'll just be one. I unplug, remove the body, and we're good to go. Another thing I want to do that I've already talked about was my axles. So I'm gonna extend my axles by 4 millimeters, and they're gonna be brass portals from AKG. I think that's the brand I'm going with. Just to give it more flex and to give it more weight, because it's still top heavy. And another thing I want to do is change my transmission plate to brass, and I want to double up my springs. And I think that's really it for upgrades as far as this project. I'm going to keep the Endura transmitter for this system. And overall, I just like it. I mean, I could show on camera, so this is it sitting normal. And that's flex. That's a lot of flex compared to a lot of aftermarket RCs, especially WPL. I mean, you can get that out of a WPL, but this system is very unique, and I love it. And on that note, I know I talk fast, especially in this video, so if you have any questions, please leave it down in the comment section below. And I'll have the chassis that I used in the description with all the parts that I've used for this build, including the lights, even though I didn't go over them, which there's really not much to go over. They're just roof lights, LOL. I just LOL'd in real life. What am I? Anyway, I know I talked fast, so if there's anything you need clarification on, let me know in the description down below. I hope this video helped you. Remember to always grease your drive shafts, and I'll catch you in the next one.